Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday night, so that means it's Arkansas Motorsports Magazine's Tuesday night tune-up at 7 o'clock. We are here today in Southside, Arkansas, just up on the hill from Batesville. And we're here at Billy Moyer Jr. Enterprises, and he's getting ready for this weekend's Topless 100 at the Batesville Motor Speedway. And we're excited to be here at his shop tonight. And I'm Bill Gilkey with our co-host Heath Tate over there. And as we said earlier, we've got Billy Moyer Jr. here. And to get underway tonight, we want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Chambers Bank with 28 locations throughout Arkansas. We want to thank Shaw Race Cars right here in Batesville for all they do for us. Skyway Buick GMC up in Joplin, Missouri. It's never been easier to buy a vehicle if you go to Skyway. Also, we want to thank True Grit Auction Services, Arkansas's #1 online auctioneer. Check them out. I think they've still got some good auctions going this week, right now, don't they, Heath?
Yeah.
And also we want to welcome aboard Vaccinate Arkansas with the Arkansas Department of Health's COVID-19 Vaccinate Arkansas strategy. So we appreciate them coming on board with Arkansas Motorsports Magazine. So we'll get into tonight's show, and we'll kick it over to Heath Tate with the Weston Petroleum race recap and breaking and racing news of the week. And looks like you may have a weather report also, Heath.
Probably a weather report. I-30 rained out this weekend. They raced down at Diamond Park. Keaton Atkinson went down there. I think he won the mod race.
And I think also the factory stock.
Factory stock race down there, Diamond Park. Batesville, y'all got y'all's in.
And I want to say Keaton had a good showing at Batesville Friday night too.
Yep, y'all got y'all's in down there. And Spencer, I guess Spencer ended up winning the mod race there?
Yeah, Spencer Hartwick captured the modified race, and I think that was his first one.
First one, that's what he was going to say.
Or at least at Batesville it was anyway. So.
And I want to say everybody that's coming out this weekend to the Topless, from 11 to 4, I think.
Yeah, yes.
Larry's going to have his museum open.
Larry Shaw will have
anybody to go down there and go through his museum and look at what he's got in there. So
that's from 11 to 4, both Friday and Saturday.
So
if folks at home, if you'll check our Facebook page a little later, we will have the address for that event. But again, that's from 11 to 4 on Friday and Saturday. It's Larry Shaw's museum, and if you hadn't had a chance to go check that out, it's just fabulous.
Yeah, pretty cool place.
Heath, I see you're holding something over there.
Yeah, it's one of the T-shirts. It's one of our T-shirts that we've got that we're selling right now. Arkansas Motorsports Magazine and New Vision hooked us up with some great shirts.
Well, they did.
And so anybody wants to get one of them, there'll be a link on here to show you how to do it.
Right, we'll be able to, like I said, you can pay for those on PayPal. They're $20 up to 2X, and everything 2X and above is $21, and I think there's $5 in shipping and handling, and there'll be a PayPal link up for that. So get your Arkansas Motorsports Magazine T-shirt. So with all that out of the way, Heath, I'll let you kick off tonight's show with our special guest.
We're here with Billy Moyer Jr. and we come up here just talk racing.
And I want to say we interrupted him, who was heavily involved in working on this car.
When we pulled up, we stopped a bunch of work going on. Him and I guess your main Jonathan.
Yep.
Your crew chief, and they was going through this thing up one side down the other, and I guess we kind of put a halt to a little bit of that, but I mean, hey, it was cool for us to get sit here and watch it.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I'm glad to be on here, and glad you guys decided to come up here to our little shop and we can talk some racing.
Yep. We got to talking a little bit beforehand that, I guess I don't really know what they've changed.
I know what you're going to say.
we've changed the college up here, but I guess he's a Red Devil.
Red Wolf.
Red Wolf. That's it. A Red Wolf. That's right.
That was actually my freshman year when they switched.
When they
and
switched
I
all
didn't
that?
quite understand what was happening, and then it just like that, it went from Indians to Red Wolves really quick.
Yeah, and you did what? You were there at ASU for 4.5 years. And
Yep. Yeah, I was there. I went and started the fall of '06, and I graduated spring of 2010. I got a bachelor of business degree, a business management degree, and really, I run my own little team here, and I definitely use some parts of it to do, and man, it probably made me a better person as far as communicating and like try to carry myself better, and not only interviews, but also when you're dealing with product, with sponsors and ordering parts and everything like that, all the way to how to represent yourself and not give the wrong vibe, like during interviews, stuff like that. I really enjoyed my time there.
I mean that business, that's what you said right there. That business degree, that 4.5 years you spent up there getting that, had to help you with everything that you're doing as far as running your own race team and running everything yourself and taking care of all of it. And I mean that had to be a big part of doing all that. So
it definitely did. Our Arkansas State, I mean, they done a lot of good to me, and I there for a long time and kind of got everything going and got my degree and whatnot. And I wouldn't change one thing. I think I really enjoyed my time there. And as far as that, I think they did a heck of a job preparing me and all my professors and whatnot. It's been, man, it's crazy to think it's been 10, 12 years since I've been there, but I wouldn't change a thing. It's I really enjoyed it and thought if I could do it again, I'd do it again. As far as if I had to start over, I thought they did a great job, and just the biggest thing is just kind of getting you in a rhythm and getting you leaned into the big world, the big boy world. As far as high school and stuff is so much more different. There's so much freedom there, and I think that actually helped me because when I race and try to sell parts and work on other people's cars to make a living, and I think that freedom kind of let me realize, like, hey, you can do whatever you want, but you're only going to go as far as you make yourself go. College, I mean, you could have missed some of them teachers. They didn't care if you were there. Right. But if you weren't there, your grades were going to suffer, or you better be really, really smart. So, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say I missed a few classes, but like, I definitely tried hard and tried to be there, a lot of the time. And also, as far as that freedom goes, just like what I do right now, if I wanted to be lazy and not work and just halfway get the car ready, then you start falling out of races, and people don't want to support you, don't want to help you, and don't want to do anything. So it's I think that college was very underrated as far as what it done for me as a business owner, quote, driver, and just a person, really.
We had Spencer Andrews on the show last week, and he gave a very in-depth explanation about marketing in motorsports, and you talk about there with your business background from college, from a owner driver's perspective. Tell us a little bit about the daily grind that goes along with running a racing operation that's not only competing on a regional level but a national level as well.
Man, there's just so much from getting your crew lined up to know how to do it. And I got one guy here that works really hard and very respectful, and just does what he's asked. He had good parents. I know them really well, and you can just always tell that. But you got to keep your crew kind of in a system of what to go. And he's a younger guy, and we have a little list we go through every week. And he knows there's certain things that's got to be done a certain way, so don't halfway do it. And he does a good job as far as getting the car ready like that. And then I do my things, the preparation on the shocks and the tires and the restrictor, the carburetor. That's kind of my job. He handles the maintenance, and as far as changing this and changing that, if we have an issue, the body, we kind of do it together. Heck, we're going to wash the truck in the morning, all that, because I had a sponsor, Bob Hass, noticed that how clean we always are, how organized our car is, in our equipment and whatnot, and he actually started sponsoring us because of seeing that, and it's just crazy. That's how it's supposed to work. And as far as getting the car to the track, well, then you got to worry about, you got to pay your guys, your payroll, you got to make sure your parts are paid for, you got to make sure your tires are ready for the weekend, as far as much less actually ready, but they got to be here and ordered. You keep up with your engine laps, when to change the oil, the spark plugs, when to get it rebuilt, change the valve springs halfway through, which is like a long job for me. Like Clements, he does it a couple hours. It takes me, I got to do one day and half the other, because I just get real nervous, because when you're changing them valve springs in that thing, one little bitty mess up's a $15,000-$20,000 explosion.
Right.
So as far as getting the motor ready and all that, then on the flip side, you got to pay your shop bills, you got to pay energy, and pay the bank, take care of all that. Much less now, once you get all that going, you got to make sure your spare parts and everything are down. Well, then on the flip side, you got to get to the track, you got to navigate, you got to get your truck there, you got to figure out the way you're actually getting there, all the way to where you're going to park, because you don't want to park somewhere where it's unlevel. So some of them places where the parking's real bad, you try to get there early so that way you can get a nice flat spot. And before that, I guess I got on order, but I try to get the shocks and tires ready mostly before we get there. The right side shocks, you really probably need to be at the track, other than if you go to the place a lot, you kind of have a little wheelhouse, but like the right rear especially, you don't really know how to have that close until you're there at the track and you can visualize it. But like tomorrow, my plan is to get a couple sets of shocks ready, so you got two different left fronts, right front, left rear, right rear. So if you're in a hurry, you can, you're ready to go as far as switching it on the adjustments. And, there's a stack right front, a standard right front, however, left rear is the same way, whichever way you want to go. And I only have one guy helping me right now. And so you try to be ahead as much as you can. Hopefully he's going to do the tires tomorrow, I'll do the shocks, and then when we're there the weekend, we'll just kind of go through our whole little system of maintenance and whatnot throughout the day after each race, instead of trying to groove tires, get the shocks ready and everything. 100%, I'm obviously going to be on that spring smasher multiple times throughout the whole weekend, just like anybody is. But you try to just get more prepared before you get there, and then when you get there, you get unloaded, get your car ready, get your fuel jug kind of set in there where you don't forget, and just get ready for your night as far as the kind of, the way you're going to go. You tell, here's our spares for the night if we have a flat, and this is probably after the heat race. We're probably going to put a restrictor in. If it's real slick and qualifying, we're probably going to go restrictor before the heat. There's just so many variables and so much to think about. That restrictor in the engine kills, say, you can put as much as you want, but the one we use a lot kills like 30-40 horse. That's a big adjustment. When you're in that heat race, you're not having to pedal that thing as much. That could be the difference between winning the heat or running fifth and having to run a B main. So that's something you don't want to forget about. So I try to be real organized and have that restrictor laying there on the counter. There's multiple things going through your head. You got to be on it. And when you're racing them guys out there, as far as Jimmy Owens and Tim McCready and Overton, man, a guy like me, if I miss by a lot, I'm going to be way off. If I'm on it, I might can be right there. At least I'll be able to see them sometimes, But it's those guys are so good. You just, like I said, a guy like me, I don't want to miss off of forgetting something or something like that. So I try real hard to be prepared, and maybe try to beat them guys every now and then.
Well, obviously, when we arrived about 5:30 today, y'all were in full swing here, and we're doing things that you would think, well, normally that is something that they would have either have gotten done earlier today, or they would have done first thing in the morning. I mean, y'all didn't look like y'all had any quit in you till we got here and interrupted you. And the other thing is you work all day here and go into the evening, and then when all the car work's done, you still got to go to the office and do the book work and the marketing, and there's no short days in this business for you.
No, definitely not. I have to go in there tomorrow at some point, and I got 4 or 5 bills I have to pay for, and I got to go pay the energy bill. When I got the shop, I had to give them a pretty big deposit, and if I'm late one time, I lose that deposit. So I think I'm coming up on the 1-year deal, and after 1 year, you get your money back. So I don't want to be late to energy, the bills are just part of it, and I don't like to be late. I try to pay all them as quick as I can. But that's just part of it. I chose this life, so you know it's just part of it. You gotta have a lot of want to, and a lot of not necessarily like common sense, but you gotta have a lot of, I don't know.
A lot of drive.
Yeah, a lot of drive, a lot of brain power, a lot of stuff to remember. But I mean, also, man, I could be out there working in a sewer fixing a pipeline or something like that, or I could be on the side of the road like them guys in 110 degree on that pavement, digging up a spot to fix a sign. So it could be way worse than what I'm doing. But it's not like I'm sitting here, drinking tea all day with my feet up in the air. Those people that work outside all day are the welders, the pipeliners, and the cattle workers. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of hard jobs out there, and I definitely don't want to think I'm different than them. But it's far from sitting in that office with your feet up. So, same thing with them doctors, man. Them guys have a lot on their plate to remember and whatnot. This job's awesome. It's fun. I definitely love it, but it goes as far as you want it. If you want to be lazy, you're probably not going to make a living at this. And obviously, the way I make a living is I have really good sponsors, and I sell parts, tires. I got a guy's car in the back shop. That's what that white car is back there. I'm going through that. We got to rebuild his transmission, change the rack. He just got a new set of Penske shocks from us. We're going to smash them things up and get them ready. You got to hustle, and that's if I was like Overton and won all them races, then I could relax a little more. But man, I got to work pretty hard to make sure I got enough money to pay the bills at the end of the month. But that was a joke. I'm real good friends with Brandon. He's a hard worker, and if that guy's won everything under the sun here, so if he works really hard too. So I respect them guys a lot.
And in saying that, a lot of people out there don't realize. They think, look at this race car driver over here. He gets in his car Friday night, he goes racing, he brings it home, and he goes back the next week. But it's not like that. I mean, if you want to run up front, you work on this thing more than you're in that seat.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more than you're in that seat. You go run, and then after that, it's, if you're like everybody, you're going over every piece underneath this thing.
Absolutely. It's a full-time gig. We usually get back, and on Sundays we take about 30 minutes and unload everything, because it sucks getting up Monday morning and having to unload and be ready. It's a drag. So we spend that 30 minutes and unload everything on Sunday. We wash Monday, and then try to get everything washed the best we can. And if we have time, we do. I mean, if we feel like it and the truck's dirty, we do the truck. Sometimes we wait till later in the week. And then, Tuesday's kind of our maintenance deal, the nutting and bolting, the greasing, the cleaning the heims, the getting your fuel right, the fuel jugs, cleaning the carburetor, getting your restrictor back to zero, making sure the body's right. If you got to put a new body on, we try to do that stuff on Tuesday. And then, Tuesday afternoon, try to get the tires kind of laid out. And I done that this morning, mounted all the tires, and Johnny will probably groove some tomorrow while I get the shocks ready on a Wednesday. And then this deal we're starting on Thursday, so we'll probably load up tomorrow night, and then get up and go onto the track. This is another one of the places the parking's crucial, so we'll try to be out there fairly early. Yeah, definitely. So then when that happens, then the racing starts, and you every day you do your maintenance and make sure the radiator's fresh and clean, and the body's on it right. Make sure your 4 bars and the shocks and everything are going, and grind the tires. If you need new tires, you get them ready. It's a constant grind, because this sport, man, the lazy guy doesn't run very good very often. So that's the biggest thing, is to make sure we give us the best opportunity to run good. And if I make a mistake in the seat, then it's on me. I don't want to realize, man, if I would have worked a little harder and had this ready or that ready, I would have been better. But I don't want it to end like that, so we try to be as prepared as we can.
You're obviously, everything you've gone through, not as a prime example of what one of our sponsors, Kevin Rogers with KR Performance Fuels down in Texas, has always said is that a lot of times fans, and there's even some race car drivers out there, that don't understand the amount of preparation that it takes to be successful in this sport. And like I said, I got to go back to when we got here at 5:30 today, and most times you think we get a lot of places and people are waiting on us at that time to get there. Y'all weren't waiting. You know, y'all invited us in and just kept right on working, and it just goes to display what your work ethic is here towards the sport.
Yeah, we try. The best thing, I have a good guy that helps me there and doesn't bellyache about when we got to work long hours. And we built this car behind us in like Wednesday. On a Wednesday, it's at 4 p.m. It was a cockpit, deck, and brake lines, and the gauges were in it. And then we loaded up, just me and him. We had a couple guys help at times, but me and him were there probably 75% of the time, and built it where it was ready to go. And we loaded up Saturday night about, I think we loaded up at 7 a.m. The sun was coming up, and felt like I was kind of on Scott's hours there. We loaded up at 7 a.m. and that's why we named this car 4 a.m. because, man, it took some long nights to get it built. So Johnny works really hard for me, and that's you have to have good help.
You have to have that.
You got to have somebody with a good
help.
attitude. Absolutely, got to have a good attitude. The guy's working for you.
Let's get into the start of your racing career.
I started at first time I ever raced was at Kentucky Lake, and I didn't run. I mean, I was, man, that place is really high banked, and like it was really intimidating. And I think I remember I started. That was, man, they had like 70 cars there, 60 something, and I started almost last in the B main. And I actually, like, I remember passing 1, 2, 3 cars, and I mean, I thought I'd won the Daytona 500 just because I passed somebody, and then just kind of kept on trying to get better, and then I won my first race in April at Poplar Bluff. It was like my 7th race out. I won. I drove home, made $1,000. It was me and my mom and my brother's girlfriend at the time. That was all I had with me, and they had to like help me. They had to run the winch while I steered the thing off there, and like it was kind of a hassle. Like as far I didn't have any help, and I won. I'm driving home, and I'm thinking, holy crap! My mom and them, they bought their pit pass, so I bought one pit pass. It's $25, and I had to put like $60 in diesel at that time. And the dually I had, my uncle Carl let me use, and I drove home, and I'm like, I just made $1,000, and I only spent like $85. Like my tires, my dad gave me, they were all used. I didn't have none. My car was like 4 years old. It was a 4-year-old Rayburn. And like he just let me kind of use all that, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm gonna be a millionaire. Like this is just too easy. Well, that was the wrong thing to think, and I didn't win again until for 3 years. I was in that old Rayburn, and I raced, and I ran with Chris Ellis in that comp carrier, MSRA at that time. And I mean, man, there was a lot of hard, long nights trying to get better. I was in, like I said, I was in an older Rayburn, but still, though, I was trying hard and on that open trailer and dually, and that's the right way to get started because I dang sure appreciate everything.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that right there because there's so many of these youngsters that you talk to that are interested in getting the sport, and automatically they think they got to have everything to get started. And there's you that just done it the right way. Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't come into this thing and I didn't pull no frame out of the woods and like have to, cut my own, tubing, or I didn't have to go, get rusted out bearings and clean them up like to build my first car. I didn't have to do that. But my car was a 4-year-old Rayburn or 3-year-old Rayburn. My dad let me use, and it was a I don't even remember the engine now. But it was, probably 100 less than everybody else had, 150 less than the big boys at the time. But it was good for me to start. It helped me with my throttle control. And I had definitely, my grandpa let me use an open trailer. My uncle let me use a dually. Like, I definitely had people help me get started. And eventually I raced on that open trailer for a couple years. And then I got an enclosed. My grandpa let me use an enclosed. And then I raced out of it for a few years, and then I finally won a race at Riverside. I passed the guy coming out of turn 4 to win my first series race, April or something there on the wall. And that right there, holy crap, that's awesome. Well, then I won again at Monticello in August, and I won the championship that year for Chris Ellis' series. It was MSRA still. And the one in Monticello, I was running second, and Ray Moore actually blew up. I was probably going to run second, but I've also lost them leading too, so But that was my second win, and that was in '09. And I only won 2 in that deal, but I won the points by a wide margin. And right then I thought, because there for that '07, '08, I'm used to being with my dad. Hell, he won every other night. And I'm thinking, man, this is so hard. Like, I don't think I'm going to make it. Like, I'm not. And so I just kept on and kept on. I was going to college during this whole time. And I only raced, probably 30-something times a year, which, I mean, that's a lot. But also going to school full time, I couldn't hardly.
It's a full plate.
Yeah, I couldn't hardly race as much as I wanted. And we won that one in '09, and then we won the championship by that a lot. So that kind of opened my eyes, like, man, maybe I got a chance. And then we got started in 2010. Trying to look at that. Yeah, 2010. We we didn't run the whole MSRA deal. We ran, and I kind of pick and choose, and I went and raced with my dad some. We won a couple that year, and then 11, we went to Arizona, I think. Yeah, 11. And I won the very first night out there in Tucson. And I remember I was running like 4th or 5th. And I'm not ever going to say how fast I am, or I'm timid at times, And I just remember I got stuck on the outside of a restart. I was running 3rd. And I don't know if I had a chance or not, but I got stuck on the outside. And I'm definitely like not one of those throttle jockeys around a cushion. But I got stuck on the outside, and it was kind of one of them day-night races, started during the day and was kind of going well. I just went down. I passed the guy on the outside. That's what it was. I passed somebody on the outside, Payne or something, and I got to second. The caution come out, and I'm like, oh, crap. So I'm thinking, man, he's going to choose the outside. Now I'm kind of screwed. Well, he chose the bottom again. So I went down to turn 1. I don't remember who was leading. No, Payne was leading. I passed maybe Jimmy Mars. And I thought, whoever it was, they're going to choose the outside. Well, he chose the bottom. So I went down there, and on the restart, I sailed her off in there on the outside, and I passed them all. And I passed Payne, I think, for the lead, coming down the back straightaway off of 2. And I took the lead, kind of checked out. And I won, that was my first real race that wasn't like a right around home race. And I thought, holy crap, this is awesome. And that kind of helped get me going. And I won a few more that year. And then I just tried to stay in my lane, try to not branch off and run with no big boys every night. I went and ran outdoor and whatnot. But I tried to not put myself in a spot where I get my butt kicked every single night. So I kind of branched out, and then just slowly started picking them up. And then, I think my best years were, that 14, 15, 16. I think in 16 I ran the World of Outlaws. And for me, this doesn't sound like much money with everything going on right now, but my team, we brought in over 200,000 for a guy that drives for himself, had my 2 crew guys that worked for me, and we ran the World of Outlaws. We won 2 races. We won 2 outlaw races. We won 7 or 8 on the year, and then ran 5th in the national points and made over 200. And that made me feel really good to kind of keep going. And then
back up there for just a sec. I think it was it 13 Rookie of the Year?
Yeah,
at that point in time.
That was Lucas Oil, and that wasn't a very good year. I kind of played my cards right. There was no other rookies running. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't prepared enough to go run the Lucas deal, but I did. I won the Rookie of the Year, but I was the only one. And we ran 9th in points. There was only 9. But I got a full year of experience, and that's when I was like, man, I can't handle them guys. So I went back in 14, ran my own schedule, and that's where we won multiple 10,000 wins. And now don't get me wrong, I run the right schedule. I picked where I think I could go win versus, I didn't go line up with Jimmy Owens and McCready and my dad and Scott every week. I went to where I thought I could make the best money. And so, I definitely, went where I went. And
Yeah, we'll go back and say the education at ASU had a great factor in that.
Yeah, I'd like to go race with them guys every week, but picking and choosing got us a lot of checks and trophies as far as and made good money where we had to race, and that's kind of it's almost to the point where the series is nice because you get a big paycheck, you get show up money, but man, it's hard on your brain and hard on your heart when you get your butt kicked some of them nights by them good guys. I don't know what we're going to do next year. Probably running my own schedule is easier on my heart because at least you can dive in there and win you a couple. A lot easier than you can with the Lucas series or Outlaws, but you just
talk a little bit. I mean, to interrupt, but talk a little bit about the stresses and strains of running with a series.
Oh man, it's tough.
Other than the competition, but just the
And
travel.
the grind,
and
it's got, you know, the
grind.
traveling, it's just,
There's nothing that compares to it. That Summer Nationals is brutal on you, racing every night, and them places are known for knocking the deck out of it on a cushion, so you got to fix your body every night. Lucas isn't like that as far as you got to do, you know, the body and whatnot, but as far as the grind, and know that these guys that are out here this weekend, they just raced a 3-day race at Florence, and now they come to Batesville for a 3-day race. They're going to go to Port Royal for a 3-day race next weekend. Then the Labor Day weekend, I think they have 2 or 3 races. If not, they race Saturday, Sunday, and then that next, they got to be at Eldora Wednesday to get ready for the World 100, or actually Tuesday, I think, this year, to get ready for the World 100. I mean, man, them guys, it's a grind. Like, I mean, just say McCready and Owens, for example. I mean, them guys race a freaking ton. Then they're trying to win all the big money, and also they got to stay fully prepared with their money. And I mean, Davenport's, I mean, all them guys that follow that Lucas deal, it's a lot to take in. And I think that's why some of them guys skipped down on Cedar Lake, because they could feel like they could get more prepared for this next little stretch. But I mean, knowing that you got to freaking race 3 to 4 times a week, like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, that's brutal on those guys. And I've done it some, but them guys are up front every week doing it, and it's quite the grind.
And the thing that a lot of people don't think of is Sunday is try to travel back home if you can, if you're close enough that you can get there. You know, Monday you're prepping, Tuesday you're prepping, and most of the time Wednesdays you're back on the road headed to wherever you're going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
It is, yeah. Monday's wash day, Tuesday's maintenance, and Wednesday is maintenance or leave. So I mean, definitely this is like a home game for us. We don't have to leave till Thursday, you know, or the race day. So I mean, that is nice. But those guys, man, it's a brutal schedule.
And I want to say this, I don't think there's anything wrong, you know, picking your schedule versus running a series. I mean, from the business side of it, it works for you, and that's I would assume that that's the important thing here at your operation.
It is just to you know, to make as much money as you can, make as much smart moves as you can where you want to go. Like, we're not going to take off and drive to, you know, eastern Pennsylvania for a couple of 10 grands when there is you know, 2 5s right here in Missouri. It just doesn't make sense to do that. So I mean, we try to just race smart. But you know, at the end of the day, you just got to do whatever. All these people in my car that help me.
And talk about some of them, if you would.
Nutrient Ag Solutions, Dyna Grow Seed. They've been with me dang near my whole career, and it started by it's crazy how that started. He's just helped me for so long. It started out as a small deal and just ballooned into a really nice sponsorship that I rely on to get up and down the road. As far as I have other people that help me as well, but without them, I'd probably be tamed down to where I'd only have 1 car, 2 motors instead of having 2 cars, 3 motors. And you know, I only have 1 crew guy right now because we haven't had a very good year. But like usually, you know, if you need that to help pay your second guy. I have Royal Jones there. Mesilla Valley Transportation helps me out a ton with our diesel getting up and down the road. Corey Phillips, a CPA firm in Memphis, come on board with me last year. Like that, we're kind of close, but we also branch out a little bit, and he's been a big help. Bob Haas Horizontal, Houston, Texas, big construction company. They go do big jobs like that. He's another guy that just kind of randomly got connected with, and liked that how we keep our program ran as best I can. And then Pontiac RV. They actually, this funny story there, we were driving down the road going to Fairbury, and I had a guy helping me. He was driving behind me, just called me and said, "Hey, you had something white blow off the rig." And I'm like, "Oh man, that's the air conditioner cover." So I'm like, "All right, well," I called Pontiac just because I seen them on all them guys' cars around Fairbury, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to order, see if you guys had this." I figured they'd have it in stock. They're a gigantic company, or a gigantic building there, and they service a lot of stuff. They did have it in stock. Well, when I get there, they dive up there, they're going to change it, and the dadgum, when it went back, it messed up the whole air conditioner. So, I mean, they gave me a heck of a price. I had to replace the whole air conditioner and the cover and all that, so they did me a heck of a job there. Well, then I'm walking in there to pay, and, you know, to pay for the air conditioner, and the one boy there, Jeremiah, says, "Hey, Kent wants to talk to you." here in just a minute. And Kent's one of the brothers that own it, and they want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, cool. I thought, maybe they thank us and this and that. And he said he wants to talk to you about maybe sponsoring. I'm like, wow. So I mean, that was kind of a surprise. And we met, and Kent and them got with me as far as I told them kind of what we could do as far as on the car and whatnot. And then he said, okay, we'll do it. And it's one of them deals. Corey was the same way. The Phillips on the car last year helped me a little bit, and then this year it turned into a bigger deal. And Pontiac's the same way. It was a small deal this year, and then next year I hope it's a bigger deal. And then the more funds we get, the better we can keep our tires, our motors, and crew help and whatnot. So it all just adds up. And those right there, Nutrien, Dynagro, MVT, Haas, Pontiac, and Corey Phillips, CPA there, those are my big guys that help me. And Kirk's one of you guys' sponsors, New Vision, keeps our car looking good. We get some shirts from him too. Penske Shocks, they're a big supporter of mine. Lucas Oil, everybody on this car, from Burt to AccuForce to Wiles Performance Bodies, Strange Oval, Sunoco, Hoosier. I mean, I can go on and on. Every single person on there. FK Roddins, Maria is a big help to me. Just every single person. I say it every time if they ever ask about sponsors and interviews. I just tell them every single person on this car. For one thing, I know everybody on here by name, and I just I couldn't hardly do it without them. And
but it's not always about on-track performance. It's about the relationship that you build with your sponsors.
Absolutely. I know, whether Keith at AccuForce or Mr. Burt there, I know him, Ralph, Scott Braun, the owner there, his son Alec. I'm first name based with all them guys, and I try to, buy parts from them also, as well as the stuff they sponsor me. Try to be as make sure it's not just a one-way street. Or if say something, Lucas Oil, I can't really, sell a whole lot of oil for them. It's kind of harder to do. I try to make sure on social media or on the pictures, make sure Lucas Oil's mentioned. Rick Schwally there with the series helped me get that. And, they're a freaking a huge company. I don't know the number figure to call it, but it's just something like that. It's something maybe somebody doesn't think about, but they help us out with our engine oil, our power steering fluid, coolant for the radiator. As far as our 18-wheeler hauler, we put their oil in it. Every single thing on the car almost is Lucas Oil, from the brake cleaner also. That type of stuff is just insane how much it helps out. And then you get to the, like Axel's Jim at Strange Oval. People ask me about ordering axles. I call him and order them instead of, saying, hey, call this person or call that. I just call and order them. The Strange is another, Strange Engineering is just another one of them sponsors. You can't put a price tag or anything on. And like FSR is right there in Memphis. They're the same way. Just wanted to help, and I try to give them as much publicity and whatnot as I can. But the main one is Nutrien Ag and Dynagro Seed with Steve Martin. That's it's an insane story how this happened. But I'll try to hit the high notes of it. I went to college with some guys, and I walked in this business class, and we all stood up and say where we're at and what we do, and this guy over here, he's a farmer. He helps his dad do this, and this girl over here, she's a assistant at accounting firm, Well, me, I stood up and said, I'm a race car driver. I try to race. And anyways, we got done there, and this one boy came up to me and said, hey, you race, yeah? And I'm thinking, he don't even know. He thinks I'm talking about NASCAR, And I'm like, no, I race dirt. He's like, well, I got some friends. Why don't you come over and hang out with us? Well, the whole thing about business, they tell you, connections is what it's all about. Well, I didn't realize what they're talking about. Well, I went to this guy's house in an apartment. We all played cards and golf for that. And my one boy called me and said, hey, you want to share an apartment this year with Spencer, Martin, Steve's son? And I said, yeah, actually, I do. I need a roommate for the year, So we got together, and he said, man, when are you going to hire me to drive your bus? Because I was driving down the road when he called me going to some race. And I said, man, I can't afford to pay nobody to drive the bus. I got to drive the hauler. And he said, you need a sponsor? I'm like, man, I could definitely, because at that time I only had 2 or 3 that just helped me a little bit. And he said, well, let me talk to my dad. And I'm thinking, man, you never know. it might be a $500 deal. It might be a couple grand for a year. Well, he says, call my dad. So I call him, and he says, hey, what do you want to do? And I'm like, man, I have no clue what it's going to cost. Like, I don't know what to tell him. I was only a 20-year-old kid. And I'm thinking, man, $500 helps, but also I don't want to be like, $500, like, that doesn't really do much for us. We need to be a bigger sponsor, you know. So he kind of hit me up with a figure and says, I just want to sponsor you for the Topless 100. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, we get done with the Topless. I left him on there for the whole month of August there, and actually won the first race out at Harrisburg with him. And then he said, call me in November, December, and we'll work something out. I'm thinking, all right, great. Or he said, we'll try, we'll see what we can do. I'm never, you know, we don't count your chickens too early. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I call him. He says, I want to do this right here. I'm like, that's awesome. That's a lot of money for me. So he had a small spot, and he helps me out like that, a smaller deal for a couple years. Well, then he calls me the next year, says, hey, I want to be the main guy on that car. Well, I don't know what that means, like money-wise. And he says, I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't want to tell somebody too much. And they laugh at me. I don't want to tell them too little. And you know, I want to make sure you get the bang for your buck. Well, man, he hit me up and says, how's this working? I'm like, my eyes got big. I'm like, you don't know what that does for me as far as being able to race. Like, I got another motor out of the deal, like, because I could up my program. And just like that, it's been with me since 2009. And it's just, I'm so fortunate to have that class. And then Steve, to be able to represent him like that, he's been so good to me. I don't know where I would not be. I could still be racing, but I dang sure wouldn't be able to travel like I can. And it didn't have nothing to do with who my dad was. It was that connections class, and he always likes that I try to represent him on TV or get interviews or stuff like this right here, where you're on Facebook getting interviewed, where you always try to put yourself out there, make sure they get their bang for the buck.
From a marketing standpoint, here's what I'm impressed with. He sponsors you for the Topless 100. When it's over, you don't pull the decal off. You leave it on the car. You go in some races, and I'm sure you called him up, showed him some pictures with the Nutrient Ag
Yep.
Solutions in Victory Lane. And I go back to what Spencer, said last week. It's about follow-up with these sponsors.
Yep.
And you've done it, and it turned into a great thing for you.
Absolutely, that's exactly what Corey Phillips. We're actually friends now. We got to knowing each other and going. We're friends, but like I've done what I said I was going to do there at the rest of that year, and he said we'll talk next year. And man, we talk, and he's actually done more than he said he was going to do. You know, he sent me some money to help me out with some pit passes for the summer and stuff like that. And same thing with, I think, Pontiac are happy with how I represent them. And if that deal comes back next year bigger, then that's even better. And same thing with, like, Royal always tells me thank you. And but it's just, I try to. Racing's getting hard, and you got to be, if you don't take care of your sponsors and don't represent them. I mean, I used to get real pissed off and more of a hothead. Like, I've calmed myself down the past 5-6 years, I think, and try to not say stuff you're going to regret. Steve always told me, that's Steve Martin with Nutrient. He's always told me, because one night we had a run-in out there in Arizona, and this guy that said something about me on the TV, and Steve was like irate. He was just ready. I had another racer, Jimmy Mars, and his brother came by. Just couldn't believe what this guy had said about me. I'm like, I didn't even say nothing. But anyways, Steve said, my secretary, I was ready to tell you, you wreck that guy, and I'll take care of it, And I said, man, I don't want to do that. And he said, but my secretary said, think about it for the whole day, and then if you still feel that way at the end of the day, then you maybe go on with what you think. So I try to calm myself down as far as I'm like high rev, but like I still try to do a better job of getting out and throwing something or getting out and ready to go fight type deal, The only thing that makes me mad is when people think that everything's handed to me like through my dad. That still gets a little fire in me, That kind of lights me up. But I'm getting better at letting all that roll off me too. But as far as the on-track stuff, I've got, I guess, more mature that I'm 33 now, so back when I was 25, I would let things get a little more irate. But I think that's with anybody. You see professional athletes, I'm not a professional athlete, but like you see them basketball players, they you can watch them grow up over time, and I think I definitely grew up. And I mean, I still get mad, still get worked up sometimes, but I try to handle myself better, because people like Steve Nutrient Ag or FK rod-ins, they don't want to see me throwing my helmet at somebody. You know, I hope I don't do it this weekend if I get too mad. But like, more than likely, that type of publicity is not what they want to see on my car. You know.
Did you let your buddy drive the hauler after?
I hope Spencer watches this, but I don't think he could handle it. I really don't. He actually works. He works for another farming company up there, like that buys from his dad, and we joke around all the time about stuff. But no, I don't. I don't think. I hope Troy Fowler watches this. He's one of the buddies from college, or Jordan. Them guys, they know better than to let Spencer loose on one of them things. I ain't seen them guys in forever since college, but I talk to Troy and Jordan every now and then and text them and Spencer, but like they would be laughing right now if they were watching this. If they are watching it, they're laughing because Spencer, he doesn't need to let loose on that 18-wheeler. Like, we need to keep him in a pickup.
What have you, since the time that you started racing one of these late models, talk a little bit about the changes that you've seen in the cars,
Right.
from the time that you started to what we're out here racing now?
Because you said something a while ago that I know you didn't have when you first started. You're talking about, you know, you're going to be spending a lot of time smashing springs.
And a lot of people don't understand that.
That's something that, you know, up until now, I guess probably a lot of the late model guys have been doing that for a long time, but most of us around here, you know, that didn't really come about for us smashing springs or doing anything until a few years back.
Can you talk a little bit about that and explain that to people? You read and you hear a lot about it, and we have calls. What are they talking about? Can you go into that a little bit?
So first off, like, yeah, it has changed a ton. There was no smashing back then, and it changed. The attitudes of the cars had changed. I mean, when I first started racing, or right before I started racing, is when they big change. Like, it used to be as much traction as you could get down the straightaway and just sling that thing in the corner. Well, now it's turned into you got to be able to stay on the fuel longer than the guy beside you and steer into the corner better, and then have a balanced car to get down the straightaway. Because if you do that slinging, you can't keep up. Like, you can some of the time, but the cars have changed. That's why the attitude of the car went from, like, say that to that. Now we're down on
the right front.
Yeah, and the left rear way up because it's higher. That's why the bodies changed. The bodies used to be, you know, I remember when I started racing, guys, it was cool to have your left rear all angled back. Well, now look at the left rear; it's almost straight back from the driver. You know, that changed a lot. The attitudes of the cars changed, but like, guys just got smarter. I mean, somebody like Keith Berner and Ronnie Crooks and Aaron Land, all these guys that the shot gurus, I guess you call them, they just got smarter. And the engineer, Kevin Rumley, really, he probably changed the whole sport dang near by himself. He is, like, insanely smart, and he probably did. I mean, I'm not like, I don't know how to say this without saying it wrong, but like, he probably did change the sport. Like, he made people have to well, if you want to win, you got to work hard, and you got to figure out what he figured out. The way he built the front suspension now to keep the rack off the ground, but also it's not as simple as just raising up the rack or raising up your frame rail. He is wicked smart. That Larson's winning all them races and everything, and Kevin's car, but Kevin is very, very sharp. As far as, I mean, obviously it speaks for itself. Right. He's just that smart and built the car right, knows how to work on it. So he almost changed it himself. Just because he figured out the geometry of what to do with that front end. I'm not a dang engineer, far from it, but he figured out to get the most travel out of the right front without changing anything else up. Well, then when you get all that travel on the right front, it changes this corner right here, so now you got to figure out where this thing's at. So you got to figure out where the happy numbers are, and I mean, that's just how it is. So Kevin is, I mean, I respect the hell out of the guy. He's awesome, and I mean, we don't talk very much. I mean, if I see him, I'd say hi type deal. But he is, him and Berner's right. Keith Berner, the AccuForce, them two guys there are very, very sharp, and they figure things out. Ronnie Crooks, like I said, Aaron, all them guys, all them names I mentioned are all part of the sport changing, you know.
And I want to say something. You know, people at home watching TV, you hear a lot about the engineers and the crew chiefs and crews and NASCAR and stuff. But don't think for a second, this dirt late model game, there's not people on there that's as intelligent or
Oh,
far
yeah,
more
for
intelligent than
sure.
those guys that are on TV every Sunday.
Absolutely. And I mean, Ronnie Crooks, I think he works for Fox now. He used to work for Penske. He was like Earnhardt's car chief back in the day, like Earnhardt Sr.'s car chief, and he tells you some wild stories, like some testing stories. That guy, he walks through the pits, you'll see him. He's got the long gray hair, and it looks like an old rocker. Like, I mean, he is. I could listen to him talk all day. He tells these stories about Ernie Irvan or Kenny Schrader or Stewart. He tells a lot of Tony Stewart stories. He worked for him some. I mean, it's awesome just to listen to that stuff. Tell some of the Earnhardt Sr. stuff, the way he drives, and it's really makes you like think like, man, them guys are so talented, the drivers, you know. But as far as back to what you asked about the Smashers now, what that means is like, I mean, I'm not going on record saying this is like the Bible, like saying I'm 100% right, but your right front, when it travels and goes into like compress mode, you got to have, you got to know how far your right front needs to travel before it needs to stop. Because it's not just, our car when it goes around there all buried on the right front, it's not as simple as just making it. Hell, you just put a 150-pound spring in there, just let that thing flop down if it was fast just to do that. You got to find the happy medium, because if you let that right front over travel, well, then when the right front over travels, the left rear's, you know, you don't have no traction because there's no resistance to go back. So it's the fine line of how far that spring compresses, and then you got a bump stop in the right front or a spring, either one. So you change your numbers on that 3 and 4 inch. That, well, I gotta say, like 3 and 4 inch of travel. That's usually the more common number on your right front, and those numbers are what dictate. I mean, it's called a packer on the right front, no doubt, 100%. Like you can put one packer in the right front, and when I mean packer, it's an 1/8 inch tall, and it goes in there and it hits the shock body and the bump in the inside of the spring. When it hits it, it changes your numbers. One bump, like down here at Batesville, or one packer can probably take you from being on the pole of your heat to like third row outside. Like, cause it could cost you 2/10, and 2/10, you know, 14.1 versus 14.3. You know, McCready's on the pole 14.3. Davenport's, you know, 8th in his group with a 14.1 versus 14.3, all because he said if I'd have had that packer in there, I'd have went 14.1. You know, and then he's starting the pole also. So I mean, that's just the difference, and that's just me just making up numbers and whatnot. But I mean, that's how crucial an 1/8 inch. And you look at a tape measure, and you see an 1/8 inch.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot.
No, and that's the thing. And like on the right rear, it's getting so technical now. 1 or 2 rounds in your right rear is also the difference between setting on the pole or starting third row outside. And if you're starting third row outside, it's going to take a lot of work to get the job done. I mean, you can still win. Hell, you can win from anywhere, but it just makes you work a lot harder. So the spring smashing is actually like let's just do the right rear is easier. Like if you say at 20 inches, that spring compressed at where it should be, say it gives you 350 pounds of load. That's how much load is on that tire. So, and then when it travels, say 2 inches, you know, if it's a 250 pound spring at 2 inches, you know, it's, you know, the 900 pounds. So 800, 900 pounds. So that's the amount of force on that tire. Well, if you want to dictate that how far it travels, well, it's not just as easy as cranking rounds in or taking rounds out. Now you put spring rubbers inside the spring. So that changes all those numbers and how far it takes to get there. So like, it's getting so technical. The spring rubber is a big adjustment because, you know, if you need to go around Batesville, you need your right rear high. Well, I don't know about the new dirt, but the old dirt, you can't lay in the right rear, so you got to keep your right rear up. Well, if you go around there and you get your right rear, you know, you just crank it in as high as you can, well, then the dang thing won't go down the straightaway. So you got to find a happy medium before the right rear over traveling and laying in the right rear. So you put a rubber in there. Well, now your ride height's too high, so you got to take the load out to get the ride height down, and then the spring rubber's in there. I mean, it's like as technical as can be, and it's all finding that number. The spring rubber is kind of keeping you from over traveling or sticking the tire. Well, if it's the magic, just put 6 spring rubbers in there and stick the tire. Well, then you know what happens. Well, then you stick it too hard. So I mean, it's just insanely technical.
And you're saying all that, you know, and letting everybody else saying out there, everybody that's watching, how important it is as far as getting that perfect when you're qualifying out there to see, you know, where you're going to run at, because all y'all run so equal when you're out there racing. Every one of y'all are just as good as the other one.
Right.
But if someone hits it to be able to get on that pole as being the fastest car out there, makes a big difference.
It does.
Because it's hard to pass.
It is.
And the group of guys that you race with, everybody's hard to pass.
Yeah, I wish it didn't. Like the bodies, our bodies are so cool looking and big and whatnot. That's partly what makes it so hard to pass. That you get, like, you hear dirty air. That's just insane. We shouldn't be hearing that in dirt, but it does, because our cars are so attitude and platform oriented that when you're in dirty air, it makes it difficult to pass guys because you don't have any air on your nose. Like, I mean, I'm far from an expert, but I mean, you go down the straightaway a lot of times, instead of following a guy like this, you follow right there just to keep a little air on your left front. Because if you're here and there's no air, I'm telling you, I've been in the corner watching before, see guys go in the corner and like a guy slide over his nose. I've seen a guy's nose come that high off the ground just because he went somewhere like Knoxville where you're all platform, you're slammed down right front. The guy goes across your nose. Well, all of a sudden, this guy that he passed, his nose goes up in the air and he hits the fence, or he loses, 0.7 of a second on the guy, and then you can't make that up. The series has tried to dictate the body rules, but it's really hard to. They've tried shrinking the spoiler, and that didn't work, and they've tried other rules. They're trying. Francis, Schwally, Casey Shun, all them World Outlaws. I mean, they're trying to dictate reasons to make where it's not so body oriented, but it's just really hard. And we've got some really good drivers and really smart people working on them. Right. I mean, there's a lot of people in that pit area that are very, very smart. I mean, from Rumley and Keith Berner and all the shock people and Anthony Burrows. I mean, there's multiple crew chiefs that you see that, I mean, they know their stuff, and it's hard to. You miss it. I mean, you miss it. You get lapped. Been there a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm my crew chief. Like, I mean, I gotta make my own calls and make sure I don't miss it. And then when you miss it, man, it just makes you look like crap. And then when you miss it, on top of if you're not the best driver in there, it makes for some long nights.
This weekend, just down the road here, about 4 miles, the Batesville Motor Speedway Topless 100. Talk a little bit about the Topless 100, if you would.
Yeah, it's a awesome race. Taking that roof off, you can see and everything. It's really kind of cool to get the fans, can see the drive. I remember as a kid, I always thought it was just awesome being able to see the drivers in there. But I've never ran great in a feature. The 2 times at Batesville that I've been strong, like I was running 5th one night and 6th one night at the Bad Boy and 1 at the Topless. I had flats both times, running in the top 6 or 7, and I've won some races out there, but never ran good at the big ones. So it'd be nice to run good. Last year, I think I was going to be decent and had a flat. So them years where I suck and run 20th, I don't have a flat. You know what I mean? You have a flat when you're running good. So Lucas Oil and all the big guys coming, and it's cool to race against them. I guess in my home track, I don't get to race there, but a couple times a year. But to see Jimmy and Timmy and Davenport and all them guys come in, it's McDowell and Overton. It's cool to see them guys come to our area. Here's Scott. I think he's probably coming. It's neat to see them. And now I got my shop right here on the road. Hopefully a couple friends of mine stop by, check it out and everything. I mean, it's not the Taj Mahal here, but it's mine at least. So it's we're proud of it. My mom, she's been real good as far as helping us get this thing looking right for the Topless. We got a sign out there and everything. I definitely, the shop wouldn't be looking as nice if it wasn't for her.
Well, I've got to say that she is probably your largest fan. She updates me on you just about every week down at the Batesville Motor Speedway, and like I said, she's always got an update on you. So.
Yeah, I think she is. It took me some years to realize, but I think she is my biggest fan. Like, you get older, you start realizing different types of things in life, and that's one of the things you just you don't realize till you see it.
Well, Heath, that brings us to the part of the show, the new Vision Sport shirts.
Yes.
Vision for the future.
That's them.
Yeah, you're holding one right there.
I guess, what are we looking for the rest of the year from Billy Moyer Jr.?
We're going to go to Batesville this weekend, And then I think they have a 3-day World of Outlaw race up there in Iowa the following week. We're probably going to do that. And then the next week, we've got like 3 or 4 options. Johnny and I have been discussing it, trying to figure out which the paybacks and the tire rule and all that kind of dictate where we land. We might go to Illinois. We might stay right here and run the comp series. They got MLRA in Missouri.
Yeah.
It depends on that. Just kind of weather does it also. But I mean, you got to look at the payback. If it's got a crappy payback and you want to go there and win, but you also could go there and run 6 and only make $800, and that's not very good. So if you go somewhere that has a nice payback, that's probably where we'll land. And then the next week we'll go to Eldora, and then the next week is they got that 50,000 to win down in Texas, but we're gonna have to see the payback for that. If it's a horrible payback, man, it's a lot of money for a team like me that owns everything, got to pay all your bills. If you got to go down there and pay a huge entry fee, got to pay to race every single night and all that, it's hard to go down there if it pays,
You're
$1,500.
saying something and hit on something that I want to say.
Yep.
Probably shouldn't, but I'm going to.
Go ahead.
That we're talking about payback, and to me, like people like you that are out there racing, and there's tons of us out there that look at that go, all right, we're going to put 5,000 on top, and second place is going to pay 500. Well, we're not going to, a lot of people aren't going to go race that because they go, well, I can't beat him, I can't beat him, I can't beat him, I can't beat him. And the payback is not good enough for me to run, you see?
Absolutely.
And a lot of these people out there, as I say, should look at that and put all that money back through the field. Because to me, you're going to get a lot more drivers want to come race your race.
Yeah, they had a 33,000 to win in Michigan the other week, and it paid $3,000 for third. I was seriously considering going, and then I looked at the payback, and I'm like, so if I go up there and I run good and end up getting passed by a car late and run third, and I get $3,000, and the guy winning is getting 33,000, like that doesn't make much sense for a guy like me to drive from Arkansas to Michigan. Now, if it paid 20 to win, 14 for second, 10 for third, well then I probably would have leaned towards going.
Right.
Honestly.
And those races right there's a lot of money that can be pulled off the top and spread back through the field, and why promoters don't do that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that'll definitely dictate if we go to Texas or like Knoxville. Knoxville's got I don't run worth a crap there, but I like the place. But Texas doesn't have a very good payback, then it doesn't make sense to go. If you go there for 3 days and you got to spend all this money to race, which is fine, you got to spend it. But if you get rewarded with go down there and if it pays, $5,000 for fifth or something, well then you're like, oh, that's not bad. Then if I spent $2,000 to make 5, but if I spend $2,000 to make 2,500 and I just beat 40 cars and run fifth, I mean, that's not very, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, you know what I mean? So that'll dictate that, and then the rest of the schedule I hadn't even looked at. Me and Johnny just looked at the next month.
Right.
So.
And I want to say something about Johnny. The whole time that we've been sitting here on the show, he's been outside and back in the other shop working this whole time. So it just goes back to the amount of dedication you guys here at your shop have. So that's very impressive.
Thank you. That's just Steve that worked for my dad forever. That's how I got raised, and I guess that just kind of rubbed off on me. Like I don't like to get up early. But as far as working, like if we got to work till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I don't care. I'm not no 7 o'clock kind of guy, 7 a.m. guy. But if we got to work till 3 a.m., I'd much rather do that. But like Steve was just always one of them guys, like he'd tell somebody to do something. I was just a kid starting out, like 15. We had people come and help and whatnot. And if Steve asked them to do something, they didn't want to do it. Okay, Steve just said, well, get out of the way, I'll do it. So I think that kind of like morphed into me, like if you ask somebody to do something and they don't want to do it, okay, I'll do it. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'm out here, I've been scraping mud, or I'll be changing the restrictor, the carburetor, or changing gears, or grooving a tire, or beating the body out, or something, I mean, it just, whatever's got to be done, that's how Steve always talked. Whatever's got to be done has got to be done. Somebody's got to do it, and if you don't do it, then I'm going to do it. That's just how Holmes, everybody knows Holmes that worked for Dad. He taught me a lot, and that's just kind of how he was, and, that's just how I got brought up. You ask somebody to do something, and they're like kind of huffing and puffing and say, okay, I'll do it. that's Johnny. You don't have to worry about him. He's out there. I think he's washing. We washed the truck the other day, and the sun was on the one side, so we didn't make it to that side. And I think he's done that right now.
Well, I'll tell you, Billy, it's been fun being here tonight, and we appreciate the hospitality you showed us, and it's been an amazing hour. So we appreciate you coming on the show tonight.
Yeah, I
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah,
This week we'll be up there watching. So
thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me, and hopefully a lot of people watch this. And if we got any farmers watching or anything, or need any, agricultural product, look them up. Or if you're looking for an RV, call Pontiac. Or we got an accountant on our team. We got everything you need. Just if you support any of these people that supported me and mention our name, that you've seen it here, it makes the racing world go round.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, definitely one of the biggest spectacles in dirt racing in Arkansas this weekend, the Topless 100, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Batesville Motor Speedway. It's a fabulous show. Go out there this weekend, watch the races, get behind Billy Moyer Jr. here and root him on, hopefully to a victory this weekend. And Heath, you gonna let it out of the bag when we're going next week?
no.
No, you're just gonna be that way.
Yeah.
I see. Well, all right. Well, I'll tell you, we want to thank our sponsors one more time. We want to thank Chambers Bank with 28 locations throughout Arkansas. We want to thank Shaw Race Cars right here in Batesville. We want to thank Vaccinate Arkansas through the Arkansas Department of Health. We also want to thank Kevin Rogers with Kevin Rogers Performance Fuels down in Texas. We want to thank Skyway Buick GMC, Foreplay Speed and Muffler Shop down in Plummerville, Western Petroleum, New Vision custom shirts. Also, we want to thank Ecky's Door Car and Parts down in north of Little Rock, and Blanket Ship's Pit Stop over in Danville. It keeps us on the road, as well as our good friend Jim Philpott up in Conway at Philpott's Complete Car Care. And we also want to remind everybody, if you're not a Circle Track fan, you're a drag race fan, check out either Prescott Raceway down in Prescott, Arkansas. I think Centerville Dragway is still a little bit under new construction, but we want to say hi to Wayne and Patty Stiles. Like I said, they'll be up and running anytime soon. And coming up, the Arkansas Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Check out those guys. So tonight, for our production manager, Aaron Gilkey, who's been busy over there tonight, experimenting with some new gadgets over there, and we appreciate him, the job he does. For Heath Tate, Billy Moyer Jr., I'm Bill Gilkey, and we'll see you back next Tuesday night from somewhere here in Arkansas.